Did you ever consider applying to the academy, going the whole route? Apply to become an officer?
Well, my parents wanted me to. And then I thought about it. I used to sit under this big tree near the parade grounds.
An elm tree with a circular bench?
Yes, that's the one.
I spent many an hour there. It was my favorite spot to study.
I used to sit under that tree and watch the drills. Picture myself an officer. I know that it would have made my mother very happy, but
You didn't do it.
no. I was 18 and eager. The last thing I wanted was to spend 4 years sitting in classrooms. I wanted to be out there, traveling the stars. I didn't want to wait for anything. And now it's done, isn't it? My career in Starfleet is finished.
Not if you aren't guilty, Simon.
Doesn't matter. I lied on my application. And that mistake will be with me for the rest of my life.
Welcome, everybody, to Deep Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast. My name is Mike. I am one of your hosts, and I am here with my co-host, Johnson.
I'm here.
You are here. Welcome.
I'm present. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
You're welcome. It's always good to chat Star Trek with you, and we've got a great episode to talk about today.
Yeah, it's one that I picked, which hopefully you liked, but we'll see. We haven't gotten there yet. We have not discussed this very much. Yes, I was like, leave it for the recording. Please don't say anything in advance. And you were like, fine. We didn't talk about it.
Yes, so we're going to talk about the Drumhead today. A very
happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you.
So what is the anniversary of your first date?
First meeting, yes.
First meeting.
Yes.
So, wow, that was 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago, yeah.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, it is. So, yep. So we're recording on a Tuesday. Yeah. Not our normal Wednesday night gab fest about Star Trek. We are, but mainly because we needed, we are going away. We're going to Vermont.
I was like making a face. I was like, the reason why we're doing this today, not tomorrow.
Well, also, I believe that you are socially engaged tomorrow.
I double booked.
Thank you.
I booked a dinner way ahead in advance.
Not just mine. Actually,
yes.
Actually, it was primarily yours.
Probably mostly me. Correct.
Yes. See, there we go.
That is the correct assessment.
But this does give us an extra day to do things so that it can be in the can and ready to go before we leave. Dennis and I leave for Vermont on Friday morning. So
fun. What's in Vermont? I feel everyone is going to Vermont. I have some coworkers that are going to Vermont. I was like, what is in Vermont? And they were like, we have a lake house. I was like, I don't think that's what Mike and Dennis are doing. But
no, we're staying at an inn, and we're just
like a bread and breakfast. What kind of inn is it?
I would say it's an old inn. I don't know how to describe it. I wouldn't say it's not a bed and breakfast. It's like a hotel.
I said bread and breakfast. I was so confused. I was like, wait, that's not correct. I was like, that's a lot of food. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah, no. It's not. It's not a bed and breakfast. It is a inn, but it's there's a fireplace in our room.
Oh God!
I don't know if we'll need it or use it, but
don't asphyxiate, please.
It looks nice. What's that?
I said don't asphyxiate. Like if you like have the fireplace going and you don't open the chute, whatever.
The flue.
The flute.
Yeah,
oh dear.
The flue.
English is a struggle for me today. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so we're going away, but we're going up there just to get away from the city. Nature. Some greenery and some.
I mean, Central Park's right here.
It's true, but yeah, it's not the same.
Not the same.
No.
All right.
Yeah, we both just need to get out of the city, because the city is, for those of you who don't know or might not remember, Johnson and I and obviously Dennis live in New York City, and so with all of the restrictions lifted as of
coming back to life.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of life and a lot of people.
Too much life?
Maybe a little too much life. It's hard to reverse this. There were some nice things about it being quieter here. Not always, but it was, obviously I don't want businesses to go out of business because of lack of people, but there were some nice things. Nature was a little more prevalent, and the sounds of
the gays are everywhere right now.
The gays are everywhere.
They're everywhere. They're like, they're taking over.
Well, I remember that they were out last summer a little bit too, when we kind of had when the mayor or the governor, I don't know who did what, said, you can have outside drinks and things like that.
Oh, so, yeah. They were like every street.
So there
corner.
were some shots. There were some photos online of tons of people hanging out on the streets, basically. So there was some, I miss the quieter quieterness. I don't know if that's not a word, but it was more quiet back then, and there was a little bit more nature. Although the birds are still here, but
you have a backyard. I mean,
we have we don't have a yard. I would say it's a patio. There is no it's, everything here is cement, right? Like, you're just on layers of cement.
Sure.
I'm sure even Central Park probably has some layers of cement somewhere. So that's why getting out of the city and getting nature and maybe fewer people and just, some fresh air, so.
Vermont will definitely have fewer people in nature and fresh air.
And fresh air. So we are going to dinner at, I guess it's the oldest pub in Vermont. I don't know. Dennis loves to find the oldest places to go to. So
is it necessarily good?
I don't know. They make a pot roast though, and I am super excited.
Oh, you love pot roast.
I love pot roast. Yeah. So it's some New England style pot roast is always good. Is your hair on point for this audio recording?
Yeah, I'm just making some adjustments and tweaks as we record.
An audio podcast.
Yes, I understand. Continue your thought process.
So what are you gonna do this weekend? So we're recording on Tuesday before Memorial Day weekend. It's first of all, it's hard to believe it's the end of May.
I know. Oh my God.
We are 5 months into 2021 already. Done. Yeah.
This weekend. So I'm very fortunate because I have Friday and Monday off. Like, the whole company is off on Friday, which is really nice. They decided to give us a 4-day weekend, which is very generous. So I'm honestly going to relax. I do have some plans. I have a friend coming in from out of town. We're getting lunch. We're going to do afternoon tea. But I don't think that's happening. I'm not sure. It's actually pretty booked, so that might be difficult. And then I have dinner with a friend. And then Monday, I might go to Cold Spring. It's this
this cute little town.
This cute little town. I mean, it's cute, but everyone goes to Cold Spring now. So now it's kind of everyone knows about. It used to be this little town that no one knows about, and somehow everyone knows about Cold Spring now. So it's no longer cute. It's no longer a secret. So it's one of those towns, and now everyone's like, "Oh, I'm going to Cold Spring," and I'm like, "All right, that's great."
Yeah.
So I may do that with a couple of friends, TBD. But I'm totally fine also not doing that because that's a lot of nature for me.
Well, it's not. There's not a ton of nature. There's some nature there, but
it's a town surrounded by hiking mountains. Trails. And
blah blah. Are you gonna?
Absolutely not. I hate hiking.
I hate
hiking. It's I hate walking. I hate hiking. I hate running. I hate like a lot of physical activity that requires movement of my legs. So, so I would veto hiking. I find like, doing like bar hopping or something like that. But hiking is out of the question.
Got it. Yeah. Well, hopefully your friends will also be of that like mind.
We'll see. I don't know. There might also be children on this trip. So I don't know how that's going to go.
Man.
We'll see about that.
Oh, you're going to be in hell if there are children involved.
Yeah. We'll see.
Okay.
Anyway, so those are my Memorial Day plans. Nothing crazy. I'm actually looking forward to having some downtime. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, let's get into some
no dates in case that was an inquiry. No dates.
I did not think of that, but
the answer is no.
No dates. Okay.
No.
Yes.
Anyway, please continue.
Well, let's get into some Star Trek talk and find out what did you Star Trek in the last week or so.
And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is not a third person on this podcast.
All right, you know what? I'm just checking. I wasn't sure if you were gonna say something. It was one of those moments. But anyway, I can go. So this week, I'm all over social because it's part of my job, and I follow Star Trek, like the Star Trek Instagram, the Star Trek On Plus Instagram, the Trek Core Instagram, all these random Instagrams. And what they often do as kind of like evergreen content is to highlight, this day in Star Trek history or whatever. And it always gets me. I'm like, what's happening? What episode are they going to highlight now? And I guess this week, I would say these past 2 weeks is like finale season. It's basically like sweeps season, which used to be a very, that's a very old term. But it's like basically, that's like when they want to air all the series and season finales. So I got a post about Scorpion, the Voyager season 3 finale. I was like, Scorpion. When did I last watch Scorpion? I think it was last year. And I was like, let me watch this again, because why not? So I just ended up watching Scorpion parts 1 and 2, because again, why not?
Why not?
And then I've been also watching a few random. I'm still doing a bit of my TNG rewatch, but I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. I refuse to go back to season 1 and season 2. For the most part, but I'm now in season 3. I watched Who Watches the Watchers, which is I don't know if you remember this episode.
It's the first contact story,
it's like first contact gone awry. It's like prime directive fail. That's
aren't they proto Vulcans or something?
Yeah, they basically look like Vulcans.
Okay.
They have. They're a mix between like Vulcans and Romulans. They have the forehead thing. They have like the eyebrows. They have like kind of pointy ears. They're proto-Vulcans. And that was I forgot a lot about this episode, and I was like, what's happening? So I watched that, and I watched The High Ground, which was the terrorism episode. Which I thought these were both decent episodes. I mean, like the terrorism episode, there wasn't much to say. Like this is an interesting episode where they explored a topic, like a hot topic like terrorism, and they tried to give both sides, like they tried to show both sides, right? They try to show how it's always a gray topic, like both sides have their reasons. But then. And this is a episode where Dr. Crusher she's kidnapped by the terrorists because they need a doctor. And then at the end, they're like, la-di-da, we're done, bye. Like it was one of those episodes where, Dr. Crusher was saved, the terrorists were stopped. There was a moment when Dr. Crusher was trying to like get Picard to kind of see the other side. And then it's like, we're reunited. See you guys later. Bye, planet. It was just one of those episodes where it just had this really neat and tidy resolution, as do most TNG episodes, let's be honest. Like it's an exploration of terrorism, but there really wasn't nothing came out of it, So that was interesting compared to obviously the complexity of the exploration of terrorism DS9, which is, much, much more complicated. In any case, that's what I've been watching and Star Trekking. What about you?
Well, I'm continuing my Enterprise season 1 watch. So
God, it's taking you forever to get through season 1. What's happening?
Well, I mean, it's 25 episodes. It's not like I watch it for hours on end. I watch, 1 or 2 episodes at a time. So
yeah.
So I've been watching Enterprise season 1, and I'm really enjoying it more and more. It really is. I do wish that T'Pol would smile more.
She never smiles.
I know about? She never smiles. She's also wearing, it's things that you wish were, I wish Gersha Phillips was alive, involved back then, so we'd have better costumes. It's just little things like that are popping out to me. Although, so I did just watch the one with the Vulcan ambassador who Fallen Hero, I think is the yeah, no, not Saval. This is another one.
That was like Soval.
Tapar or something like that. T'Pol, not T'Pol, or I can't think of her name, but it turned out, she's very curious about humans.
I remember this. She's played by Data's mom.
Oh, really?
Do you remember?
No.
Oh my God. I think it's the same. I'm 99% sure it's the same actress. Do you remember that season 7 episode of TNG where Data's mom came into play and she turns out to be an android?
No, I don't even remember that at all.
Get out of here. Don't remember this episode?
No, I don't, actually. I don't remember there being a Data's mom.
Oh my God. Who are you?
I mean, there's 800 800 episodes.
Juliana Sung.
Oh, okay.
Or Juliana Tainer. And then she turns out to be an android. She was injured by the crystalline entity. And before she died, Sun duplicated her memories and put her into the body.
Okay. That sounds familiar. That piece sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's the same actress. Yes, I remember her. And T'Pol was trying to get Hoshi's smell out of her quarters.
Yeah, there's some of that. But so that was a really enjoyable episode. Seeing the Enterprise push Warp 5, which it had never done. It's got a Warp 5 engine, and they've never gone Warp 5 in it. So it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. A lot of drama, intrigue, again, more about the Vulcans not trusting humans and humans not trusting Vulcans. All of this kind of stuff. So so that was really good. So I realized after watching this episode that I only have 3 or 4 more episodes in season 1.
But then you have season 2, and you can cherry pick season 3.
Yeah. No, there's more. Yes. And I don't remember too much about Shockwave. Don't say anything. So I'm getting towards that. I remember being very underwhelming, but we will see. I'm just enjoying it because it feels fresh because it has been.
I was gonna say something about Shockwave, but
don't ruin it. Don't say it. Don't say it. I'm looking. It's this, you've called it. This is a renaissance, but it also feels this is probably the first time I've rewatched Enterprise in 20 years. But I'm enjoying it. So it feels kind of fresh. The things I do remember things as they kind of come up, but I don't know how they might end or wrap up because it's been that long since I've watched it. So I'm really enjoying my rewatch.
Good.
So that's what I've been Star Trekking. Oh, and I'm still listening to Wonderlands, the new Discovery novel, which is getting a little bit better. It was it's obviously Michael centric. So it is it's a lot of her thought process, and there's a lot of
is she like crying in her mind?
No, when not quite so, no, but it's just it's a different kind of, that's really the only character that you recognize, and Sahil, obviously Sahil is in it,
who we barely know.
Right, you do sort of get to know him a little bit more in this book, so he's got an interesting background. I believe she's also listening to his grandmother's personal logs, I believe, from right around the time of the burn. So,
okay.
So it's kind of interspersed with that. Again, I think the hard part about this, and this is the one thing that I know you really like, one of the things you don't like about Michael is just her obsessive behavior. Like, she just gets something into her mind, and like she doesn't know how to be a not Starfleet officer. And even though at the beginning of season 3, when they do catch up to the Discovery, she's lost some of that. She feels more independent and all of that. So this whole book is sort of the process of that happening.
Does this cover the full year? Does this book cover the entire?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. There aren't really a lot of dates or timestamps in here, but it does give you a more interesting view of the universe post-burn. So, we sort of get that in the first couple of episodes of season 3, but this kind of branches out and shows some other things going on, and so it's interesting.
Okay.
And book plays a part in it, but it's before their romance obviously kicks off, so it's a lot of like flirting / being angry with one another, like just so and a lot of Michael just being Starfleet when there's no Starfleet, and people kind of sort of laugh in her face in a lot of ways, like, because she's so it's just her kind of figuring out her way in this new universe that she's in. So so yeah, I'm about 80% through it at this point, and it's I'm glad I'm reading it. I don't think it's not an earth-shattering book by any means, but so that's what I have been Star Trekking this week.
Yeah, I don't really know how much I love these like book tie-ins, because it's interesting, but then they need to like fit into this established narrative. So we kind of need, where it's going. Like, it's not like, Book is going to die or something. So there's like a limited amount of stakes in these books. Yes. And then it's like, are these even canon? It's like, kind of, because they're like official, like CBS / Paramount, but they're not really considered canon in like, the story. It's questionable how canon they are. So I'm like, to me, they're like, this is the same problem I had with Last Best Hope, whatever, that Picard prequel. I was like, is this all canon? Like, and I know where this is going. I don't know. It's like, it's almost like fan fiction to me. It's like more fan fiction. It's like, it's like I can write a book that's a prequel to Picard that's probably more exciting than Last Best Hope, to be honest, because I feel like it was like, I don't know. I didn't really think that was particularly interesting. It gave us a little bit more context. But it was trying to like, you could tell the book was like trying to like, it was driving towards where Picard season 1 had to be, like the start of it. And then it was also trying to like tie in all these disparate pieces of what we know, including like the stuff we know from the Kelvin reboot, like things like that. You were like trying to see that she was like trying to like tie these threads in. And at the end, I was like, ugh, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about these books.
Yeah, I would say that these books are definitely different in that respect, because they do kind of have to fit into the universe.
There's like more. There's more restrictions on it, and you know that it needs to be more like Paramount needs to put their stamp of approval on it.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, whatever.
Unlike back in the days of the pocket books, right, where they were kind of
they can go crazy or something.
They could go, do a lot of different things. Yeah, these definitely have to fit into a more
it's just a more rigid. Yeah. There's more like guardrails to it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I've never gotten to these like, tie-in books. I think it's interesting. But I hate reading. So it's like, if I already hate reading, why spend the time and energy on these that are, these books that are mediocre. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. So, all right. Well, there's that. Should we get into the bulk of our talk today of what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, let's do it.
If you have a statement, you'll have an opportunity to make it later.
I believe that Chapter 4, Article 12 of the Uniform Code of Justice grants me the right to make a statement before questioning begins.
Very well.
I'm deeply concerned about what is happening here. It began when we apprehended a spy, a man who admitted his guilt and who will answer for his crime. But the hunt didn't end there. Another man, Mr. Simon Tarses, was brought to trial, and it was a trial, no matter what others choose to call it. A trial based on insinuation and innuendo. Nothing substantive offered against Mr. Tarses, much less proven. Mr. Tarses' grandfather is Romulan, and for that reason, his career now stands in ruins. Have we become so fearful? Have we become so cowardly that we must extinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy? Admiral, let us not condemn Simon Tarses or anyone else because of their bloodlines, or investigate others for their innocent associations. I implore you, do not continue with this proceeding.
Do you want me to read? So we're going to talk about the underappreciated episodes of The Next Generation.
Underappreciated? Who knows? But I think it's underappreciated.
Yes. So we are in season 4, and we're going to talk about the Drumhead.
Yes. Wait, are you digging up the?
Yeah, I have it right here. I was
Plus description of it.
No, the Netflix one. But
okay.
So here we go with the Drumhead. A retired admiral boards the Enterprise to investigate a possible act of sabotage and puts Captain Picard in an uncomfortable position.
It is kind of uncomfortable.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Drumhead.
So this is my pick. So I don't know what you thought about it. No, I was going to ask you what you thought about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, twists. Yeah, what did you think about the Drumhead? Obviously, I liked it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked it. But Mike, what did you think about this episode?
So I really enjoyed this episode. I there was a lot to really like in here, and you forced me to not talk about it with you before we did this. So there is a lot of interesting aspects to this whole episode. I mean, it's very multifaceted. It's
one thing I did mention, which I will let you talk about.
Yes,
about Simon Tarses, I didn't even think about. And I thought that was interesting. But please.
Yeah. I'm going to get into that in a second. But yeah, I thought that this was all rather interesting to have all these different storylines come together in this mock trial that an this Admiral Sati, who's retired, basically concocts out of nowhere, like seeing conspiracies where there aren't conspiracies. And
speaking of, remember when at the beginning
she does mention the conspiracy from season 1.
Picard in his personal log mentions the conspiracy from season 1. I was like, what role did she play in this? But sure.
Yeah,
the role she played in the episode Conspiracy. I was like, I don't recall her doing anything in that regard.
So the way that he positions it, it's post that, like, she led the investigation into what happened after.
You mean the aliens taking over the bodies? Yeah. Like the corpses everywhere?
Yes. So she would have.
Like, I wonder what happened. That. Oh, yeah. Mystery. Anyway, continue.
So yeah, I thought that was a kind of an interesting throwback, right? Was that? But I think that the part that I really found interesting, the most interesting, was the whole Simon Tarsus storyline. And I
thought it was interesting that you latched onto again, but please continue.
Yeah, no, obviously it was very clear that he was nervous about something. Obviously, being part of an inquiry was certainly very, very stressful.
Do you want to summarize like his story?
Yeah. So Simon Tarsus is a medical crewman in Dr. Crusher's sick bay who is mainly responsible for injecting this Klingon with the medication that he needed to stay alive. He's got some sort of disease that requires, weekly injections. Weekly injections. And so it's, in the investigation of this Klingon who has stolen the plans to the Enterprise's warp core, and somehow the Romulans have gotten a hold of this now. So there's that whole Romulan conspiracy, and now the Klingons part of it. And then
I thought that was interesting too. It's like, why would he because his whole rationale was like the Klingon Empire is weak.
Yes, yeah. He had the whole scene.
That was so interesting that he decided to give this information to basically the mortal enemy of the Klingons. I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah. So. There's definitely, and then that's the piece that they don't really solve. They kind of come up with the idea that this one ambassador is something that has disappeared. Someone has disappeared, and that's probably how the Romulans got this through the injections. So the injections also had, the injector, I guess, had this ability to synthesize data into protein sequences, which would then be inserted into the person who was carrying it away. So that was how they were getting
like isolinear chips and then encode the information in proteins or something.
Yeah, and proteins. Yeah, which was an interesting. I don't know scientifically how whether you think that's possible or not, but so Simon is under suspicion because they believe that the Klingon needed some help in doing this. So they start looking at all the people that the Klingon has come in contact with. Simon is a part of that. I think at that point it had come out that the Romulans had gotten the data. So I think that coupled with, what Simon's background was, caused him to be really stressful. So they interview him. He, the Beta Z prosecutor is like, he's lying, he's hiding something, so that sort of starts this whole investigation into his background. And it's found out that, originally he said that his background was Vulcan, and that's what he put on in his application, right? So his
quarter Vulcan or something.
Yeah, his great grandfather was a Vulcan. It was so but it comes out that it's actually his great grandfather is a Romulan, so he's like 1/8 Romulan or something like that, or maybe a quarter, I don't know. But the problem here is, or the issue here is that because he lied on his application, his one mistake and his Starfleet career is ruined. And so and that sort of comes out in a one-on-one with Picard, which I thought was really kind of touching, but also, gosh, I would feel intimidated if I were a crewman sitting having tea with the captain, and knowing all this is going on, and so it just the way that all that information comes out, it really reminded me, one, of something to hide, right? This Simon had something to hide, which was his background. Mm-hmm. I took that very, very literally as how for the longest time I hid who I was, how a lot of gay people or LGBTQ people kind of assimilate or lie and say I'm straight, or I'm that girl or that guy is cute, to kind of keep a homogeneous homosexual heterosexual mm-hmm. Standpoint in their life, because of the fear of what would happen if that was to come out. So I really felt that Simon was kind of an analogy for the LGBTQ population, in that there was a piece of him that he was not ready to disclose. He didn't disclose it. And then he was put under pressure to disclose it, and it's basically ruined his life. And I'm not saying, I don't mean that the analogy continues like that it ruins his life, but I'm talking about the idea that, until a person is ready to come out, or, is ready to disclose their sexuality, mm-hmm. whatever that may be, that's one of those things where, there can be a lot of fear and angst around what's going to happen to my life after this information comes out. And that whole piece of it comes out in his conversation with Picard. And I thought that, wow, that's, if you really look at that through an LGBTQ perspective, mm-hmm. yeah, that's how a lot of us felt at some point in our life, being scared of revealing who we were to others, and what that would mean for our future, or our the options that are presented to us in our life. So I thought that was so that's what I picked out of that, was and why I latched onto Simon's story, is because of that whole piece. And Picard doesn't really give that character any hope. He's kind of, it's not like, unfortunately, that's the piece that kind of falls short, I think, is this whole idea that, Simon believes his career is over, which it probably is. But that's not the end of his life, his existence. He can, right. There's other things that he can do, and other places he can go. But Picard really doesn't help.
No, he doesn't.
Doesn't help. Yeah. He doesn't, I thought that from the conversation, one, I thought about how intimidating a conversation that would be, but two, and
he was like, here, have some tea. I was like, I would be like so nervous.
Yeah, definitely very nervous, right? And then, Picard does start off really soft, and like tries to get to know him, and tries to bring him out of his shell, and talk a little bit about what's going on. And I think Picard also does feel a little bit guilty. Well, not guilty in the sense, he feels badly for this person because he's done nothing wrong, but yet because he didn't disclose this one piece of information, his Starfleet career is pretty much over. And I don't think we ever find out. And it would have been nice to say, at some point, maybe towards the end of the story, saying to Worf in the conversation in the observation lounge, or even prior to that, saying, I'm not recommending that Simon be removed from Starfleet because of this. It would have been nice to see that, but that obviously did not happen. So we're kind of left with the thought that Simon lied about his background. His career is over. Yeah. So I think that was probably the most interesting part of this story for me. Now, I watched the whole episode through, and then I actually went back because I went back to right after that conversation to kind of review how the trial, like how everything kind of went off the rails at that point, with Admiral Sati calling Starfleet and bringing in another admiral, and that whole piece. Because I was trying to figure out, like, did I miss something? Is there really a conspiracy here, or is it all made up in her mind? And I wanted to reevaluate all of that, and so I watched it again, and especially I watched the speech that Picard gives right before he's interrogated in the courtroom, and then I realized that this is all really made up in this person's mind, and that there was nothing here. Like, she's creating this sham trial of what I don't even think we know. Like, now she's just trying to find more conspiracies, and thinks that, it's never really clear what she is looking for, other than she's just seeing conspiracies everywhere, and she wants to root out all evil.
Yeah, I thought that I like this episode, and going back to what you're saying about Simon, I didn't make that kind of emotional connection to Simon necessarily in relating to making that relation in terms of his experience mirroring mine in terms of my coming out. But I do remember when I first watched this episode, because he did a really good job portraying a person who had something really big to hide. Yes. And how devastating it was when it came out. I do remember having like a very visceral reaction to that, because you can tell how devastating it was. And I think that this is probably very similar to what you're saying, like when someone is like forced out, when they're not ready to kind of talk about it, how that is something that is taken away from you, that power is taken away from you, how terrible that is. So I thought, he did a great job portraying like a character kind of going through that experience. And then, when it comes to Admiral Sati, I thought that she was a very interesting character, because like, when she first comes on the ship, she and Picard are like hitting it off, right? She is like, I didn't think I would like working with you, but I can see where we're going to be great partners. We're going to work well together. Oh, Worf, he's going to be great. He's going to be critical in this investigation. I like him, and then later it kind of definitely goes off the rails.
Definitely.
And I think that, like, I don't know. Okay, so this was, even though I really like this episode, because I think that there was a lot going for it, and I think it's just interesting. I agree with you. I'm not sure what the episode is saying about Admiral Sati as a character, other than, like you're saying, like, she's just looking for conspiracy. She is she senile? I don't think she's like doing this on purpose. Like, she's not like trying to just instigate problems, I think she legitimately thinks that there's something going on. And, she's a very proud character. Like, she's very confident in herself. And I think that this, when I was thinking about it, I think there's more or less, what is like Admiral Sati, and like, like what are her motivations, and maybe more so about her effect on the people around her. And she's kind of like a force of nature in this episode. She just comes and like, drudges up all the shit. But I think what's more interesting is it, because we don't get anything in terms of like, why is she doing this? Is she crazy? Is she like, is she senile? Like, we don't get that. But instead, I think it's even more interesting what, how Picard reacts to her, how Worf reacts to her, and how she influences the people around her, and like how they, what comes out of her actions, because I do think that we get a lot of great Picard in this episode where, at first he's like, oh, she has a point, there's something going on. And then later, like, like even what you're saying about Picard's conversation with Simon, and then the couple speeches that he has about realizing that, like, there's something wrong, and there's something wrong with the way that they're going about this investigation, and they're violating freedom and rights.
Well, they lied about the cause of the accident, so right. Which is also, I think, a tipping point for Picard is when they do that. That means that this is no longer a legitimate trial or investigation, because now they're making shit up to get people to talk,
right,
or to cause these problems. And Simon was the first casualty of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that continued. And as you were talking, I was thinking Picard sort of calls it out at the end, as far as when he's talking to Worf, and how villains come in all, don't always come in with twirling mustaches, as is what his term is, which I think is kind of funny. Talk about a 1930s reference to black and white and no audio movies, where the villain had to be someone with a twirling mustache. But it's that whole idea that you have to be careful about when you start losing the truth in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're talking about this, wow, what a apropos kind of episode that we're talking about now, given the world that we live in, where the truth is being twisted and used in the wrong way. So it's really kind of it's funny because these morality plays that are Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation, are really, it's funny that they're 30 years old and this issue is still obviously a problem. Like, the twirling people are
potentially worse, I would argue.
Yeah, for sure. A lot worse. And so I think in the thing in this episode is really about the truth, not creating a false narrative to get to the truth about something.
Mm-hmm.
is not the Starfleet way. It's not the Federation's way, and it shouldn't be. It's not right. And even Admiral Satie's father, right? It was his father.
Mm-hmm.
Her father said that you have to be careful when the truth starts getting maligned to prosecute people, and to create this kind of environment where any truth can be twisted to harm someone.
Yeah.
So some real ties to what we're dealing with now, but also some real ties to the LGBTQ community. So, I mean, kudos to you on picking this episode. I mean, some really apropos, more than the whole false trial thing and Boimler saying Drumhead.
I told you it's just like a random reference. It didn't like me.
But
I will say she has some great outfits. Like, I don't know, they like they worked really hard on making her have some unique outfits. I was like, oh, it's very structural. Yeah. I like the silhouette. She does dress really well. Yeah, I like the high collar.
Yes, she does. I did notice that as well.
Yeah, it's like very.
Yeah.
It's very
I thought
how dramatic she is.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because the two other things, like her assistant, the stenographer, whatever it was a very odd looking, interesting character that I
also kind of an interesting. It looks almost like 3D printed, like her outfit.
Oh yeah. And then so at the beginning of the episode, with the initial investigation where Troy and Riker are interviewing the Klingon, suddenly Deanna disappears for the rest of the episode.
She ghosts
because we have this Betazoid, full Betazoid prosecutor that is part of Admiral Satie's team. So but in the end, it's interesting because once that all kind of comes out, and once Picard says what he needs to say, the Admiral walks out. Then the both their team members leave her alone in the courtroom and basically abandon her as well. And so all of her support is kind of dissolved, but the prosecutors or the investigator, I don't know, he was more like a prosecutor, especially with Picard.
I'm talking about the Beta Z?
The Beta Z, yeah. The Beta.
Again, can't speak English. The Betazoid. Betazoid.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was. There was also interesting element of that because remember the conversation where Picard and Admiral Sachi are kind of going back and forth on whether or not it's appropriate to go off like the hunch that this Betazoid has. Sorry, I can't say it. And then he has to be like, he actually, Admiral Sachi actually kind of like is like, you use one, like you have one, like your counselor's Betazoid,
right?
Like, so what's the problem that you have with me using one? So which I thought was kind of interesting, and this was an example where she was kind of like, using logic to kind of like be like, you're being hypocritical because you use one and you would use one in certain situations. So why can't I use one if it's potentially a terrorist, if we're trying to potentially weed out a terrorist. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And Picard was like, oh, maybe I should reevaluate, what I do. So I thought that was kind of, that was an interesting conversation. I will say from the
I think she was manipulating him then. I feel like she was trying to manipulate Picard in that way. But
I thought that she had a point. I mean, like, I mean, like Picard uses Yana in these circumstances is kind of like, he wants to see like what her gut feeling is, and then use that to kind of further dig out like what's going on. Like because the most that she can offer sometimes is like they're hiding something, which is basically like her go-to line, and he uses that to kind of further the truth. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I will say that this again is an episode that kind of suffers from this like 45-minute storytelling, like episodic storytelling, where like I feel like the trial of Picard is just beginning to build up, and then he quotes her father, and then she goes off the rails, and then it's over. It's like she's discredited. I'm like, that was wrapped up very quickly.
I can see how that would. Yeah,
I felt it was kind of abrupt. Like, her acting is fantastic. I thought that the two of them actually together head to head, it was actually, they had some great scenes together. But yeah, I just thought that the end was kind of, it was just like an abrupt, like, oh, she's done, I guess, like, she's discredited. This trial's over. I thought that it just cleaned up a little bit too quickly. Because again, this was not that I would want this to be like a multi-arc episode of any, or anything. It doesn't need to drag out. I just thought that it kind of just wrapped up a little bit too neatly.
Yeah, I do too, to some extent. I also think that once the Admiral saw where that was going and what she was kind of bringing up, it was totally outside the scope of what the initial investigation was. And I think that that's also why this wasn't part of a larger conspiracy. This was, there was enough evidence to lead you down a different path, which is this missing ambassador or something that the Klingon had in contact. They had the Klingon who did it. So there were all these pieces that were already kind of taking them one direction, and she was taking them in a completely different direction. Like, investigating Picard as the possible conspiracy, and I think the Admiral thought that was a little much, So
I do
feel it felt a little rushed.
I love that he said nothing. He just like left. He had made a face and then he just left. It was so funny.
Yeah. I didn't love that. I wish he had said something, but I guess his statement was getting up and walking out of there is sort of what he was doing. So yeah. And a great episode. Really, I have a deeper appreciation for this episode now for obvious reasons, but this was a good choice for.
You didn't remember what happened.
I didn't. No, I didn't. So it was great to go back and with 800 episodes, I think I started this thought earlier, but with that many episodes, it's really hard to or 800 hours, I guess, of Star Trek. It's really hard to remember all the details. You remember your favorite episodes, you remember pieces of other things that, maybe a piece here, a piece there that kind of came out, which is why I think I'm really enjoying rewatching Enterprise, because I don't really, it's been that long. It's been a long time.
And you still have to rewatch, like you're saying, DS9. That's a lot.
I do, yeah. I do for sure. So there's our discussion of the Drumhead.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Worf, really, because Worf was like, there was a big Worf arc in this episode. There was that too, like where we dig a little bit deeper into his past, which I liked.
Yeah. This sort of sets up the redemption arc that is coming later, or the beginning of the redemption arc that starts with the finale of that season. So there's that whole piece so it's almost like they did have an idea of where that was going, and they had written this episode to kind of layer in some of those things, which I think is really smart of them. They did a great job of that.
I always like it when we explore, some of the Klingon episodes, like, not all of them are great. But I do like the redemption arc that we have with Worf, and then also just the exploration of his culture and background, how he straddles both worlds. And this was another example where he, because the Klingon, the exchange officer, the exchange science officer, is trying to appeal to his Klingon half in some ways towards the beginning, and was like, your name is not heard on Kronos, and like, I have friends in high places. And Worf does this move where he like punches him, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like he raises his fist and then he goes flying or something into the wall. But it is interesting how again, towards the beginning, Admiral Sati, they really get along. He and the Betazoid really get along. And then that also is an example that it just like escalates and then goes off the rails, and then he at the end is just like, I totally fell for it. And that was another. There were a lot of scenes of war that I thought were also very interesting. Yeah. What are you looking at? What are you investigating? You're like looking.
I'm jumping ahead because we didn't talk about season 5.
Oh, well, that was your homework, not mine. So
I failed on that respect.
We're supposed to pick a season 5 episode.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the Worf piece. That it's definitely a Picard Worf episode. It's funny. It's almost like they had to have Will Riker on the set for that week for whatever reason.
Well, I think he directed this episode.
Oh, did he?
I think so. I think Jonathan Frakes directed this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
let's see.
So there we go. That would explain
Memory Alpha will confirm.
Will save us. But yeah, I agree. There was some good Worf stuff in here.
Oh, written by Jerry Taylor.
Oh,
by Jonathan Frakes. Yeah.
Okay, Jerry Taylor. Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well,
strong women.
Strong women, yes.
Though questionable ethics apparently. Cool. Well, I think that does it for the Drumhead. I've said everything I want to say. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
I think we've done a nice job of covering the Drumhead from a multiple perspective approach.
Oh my God, Jari Taylor's 82. She's aged, as will we all.
She's gonna be Jari Taylor is gonna be at Star Trek Las Vegas / the 55-year mission, I believe.
Cool. Yeah. As will 150 other guests, apparently. So. And counting.
The two of us.
And the two of us. And us. Cool. So, Mike, have you narrowed down what we're going to be talking about next week as part of our
there's a lot of good season 5 episodes in here, but
underappreciated TNG episodes.
Yeah, so I'm struggling to come up with one, but I think I've landed on one. Well, so we have two choices here.
Okay.
So I'm thinking. So we have talked about the Outcast before.
Oh yeah,
which is an interesting. But I don't know that we've talked about it on.
Though that's not underappreciated.
You don't think so?
It still comes up like in conversation. Well, people talk about.
Okay, then you know what? Then we're gonna go with my second choice then, which is Ensign Ro.
Oh, okay. I watched that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I think that this is. I was scrolling through it. There's a lot of standout episodes in this, but I think that one of the things that we kind of skip over, and because she plays a pretty pivotal role in some future season 5 episodes that are more appreciated.
Rascals season 5.
Rascals.
Oh my God.
The next phase. The Conundrum, I think she's in, and she plays a lot. So
Disaster, which is actually 2 episodes, I think, after Ensign Ro.
Which one?
Disaster. It's when
Disaster is the other one. Yeah. Yep.
Hello.
Yep. So I thought let's do next week. We're going to talk about Ensign Ro.
Okay, that works.
All right, for our season 5 underappreciated episode, and also next week we have to figure out what we're going to do for Pride Month.
Oh God!
Pride Month starts on Tuesday. Next Tuesday. We're a week away from Pride. Yeah.
I guess even at work we're talking about Pride Month, but I was like, oh wait, Pride is next week, or Pride starts next week. There's not even like a Pride parade this year, right? It's all digital, isn't it?
There's not. I found that out through Wilson Cruz, who's the Grand Marshal of the New York City Pride Parade, and he's trapped in Canada.
What?
And also they're still they're still filming.
Oh, okay.
But he posted on Instagram that he is the Grand Marshal for the New York City Pride Parade, which will be virtual. So that's very interesting.
That's interesting.
But that's fine. Honestly, standing, having those kind of crowds this early, I'm not ready for that. I'm definitely not ready for.
Yeah, I'm ready for. I'm with people. Like I'm with people. I'm told I hang out with people, I see people, but the Pride crowds can be a bit much.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot,
yeah. It's a little too early for that. So I'm actually glad that it's going to be a virtual Pride parade.
Is it an actual parade?
Sure there's going to be.
Is it an actual parade? I'm sorry, I was like yawning and talking at the same time.
I know you were. I was
like. Are they gonna have like panelists? Like,
I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah, I do not know.
All right.
So, but it is Pride Month, so we'll talk a little bit about that next week, and we'll talk about Ensign Ro. But before we wrap up for the evening, we wanted to give a huge shout out for 2 things, right? So we had our first contest last week
giveaway
with Lower Decks.
Contest.
Giveaway. We just want to give a quick shout out to Sarah, Tracy and Howard, who won our giveaway. And
we're not revealing their last
Blu-ray
name
copies.
We don't want people to hunt these people down for the Blu-ray.
The
character sets they got.
Yeah. So, but we wanted to congratulate them and thank them for entering our giveaway and for winning. So huge shout out to them.
Yay.
And then finally, we just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fansets. Sponsor. I could not think of the word sponsor.
I'm having whatever.
So
I'm having
huge shout out today, so yeah, the word sponsor I was having a hard time with. But anyway, yes. So we want to give a huge shout out to Fansets, our sponsor, one of the major sponsors for the Trek Geeks podcast network. And we love the guys at Fansets, and we'll get to see them in Las Vegas, I think. So that's exciting. And so if you go to fansets.com and put a bunch of pins in your cart, and I don't know what's coming out for June 1st, so we'll let you know next week what's come out. But if you put over $30 worth of pins in your cart, you'll get free shipping in the US. And secondly, if you enter the code DSPride, all caps, you will get 10% off your order. So go check out Fansets, find some pins. They've got a lot of great pins there. And we want to thank our sponsor, Fansets, for supporting Deep Space Pride and the Trek Geeks podcast network.
Thanks, Fansets. Cool. All right.
So finally, Johnson, why don't you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with us?
Sure. Yeah. Everyone can get in touch with us on digital channels because we have technology. So you can reach us on Instagram and Twitter at Deep Space Pride, or you can email us at deepspacepride@gmail.com. And if you reach out, we will try to answer you promptly.
So next week, we're going to talk about Ensign Ro from season 5 in our series, The Underappreciated Episodes of Next Generation. And we'll also have some talk about Pride and what that all means for the month of June. So we hope that you will come back next week and join us. And until then, everyone have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks podcast network at trekgeeks.com, or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut.